Bitch!
Welcome to the Unimaginary Friendcast. This is live stream episode 283. It's a conversation with your best friends, and we are your best friends.
I'm Nathan Von Edmondson.
I'm Erin Marie, Betty Davis Jr.
Wait. Okay. There. Okay.
I'm David.
Wait.
Who are
Oh,
you?
no. Oh, no.
What?
And I'm DavidMonster.com. Oh, no. Oh, God. Here we go. Wait. Everybody needs to see.
David seems
Nathan Von Edmondson. Oh.
David, you're forgetting that we have audio listeners that can't see you screwing up all of the subtitles.
I'm sorry. Screwed up the subtitles. Someone switched the order of them, and Nathan was out of order, so I didn't put him up. But I got him up. So if you watch the video, and now I'm up, and now I'm going to stop talking.
Do you think everyone effectively knows who we are?
Now.
Good. Okay. So tonight we had a really special Thanksgiving topic, really uplifting before you go home and you spend the day tomorrow with your families. Kyle Rittenhouse. Have you heard of him?
Yes.
Okay. Well, he's this 18-year-old kid, now 18, charged with killing two men and wounding a third in Kenosha, Wisconsin. That was last summer, 2020, after a protest. He was armed with an AR-15 kind of weapon. And his attorneys say that he was acting in self-defense, but the prosecution painted him as the aggressor, which would then null and void the self-defense claim. And we all know by now, I'm sure, that he was found not guilty on all 5 counts, but was justice actually served? That's what we're going to find out tonight. We're going to review the top points in the defense and prosecution, and we're going to make the final call because people are still upset. So we're going to figure it out together with you, with the help from our live audience. So please weigh in. There might be some things that we don't know, but we know everything, right, Nathan?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
He prepared the topic and it's flawless.
Thanks.
But first, who's got breaking news this week?
I've got breaking news.
Uh-oh. Nathan goes first.
Okay.
So, over the weekend, I auditioned for Philadelphia Comedy Sports, which is I think they've been around for 25 years doing shows in the Philadelphia area. It's a national organization. So there's Comedy Sports in multiple cities. I'm not sure how many. They do predominantly short form a la Whose Line Is It Anyway, where it's like a game format where there's 2 teams of improvisers and a referee, and then the audience is there throwing out suggestions, and the 2 teams compete for the hilarity and entertainment of the audience. And then the team wins, and then that's it, I guess. Everyone goes home happy.
Sounds right.
So I auditioned and was cast. There were something.
Wow.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Congratulations. Yeah.
Yay. This is a clappy motion.
How many people did you beat out?
80?
Yeah, so there's something like over 80 people auditioned. I guess they hold auditions about every 2 years, and probably as needed, I would imagine. They took 12 new players this round. So,
wow, that's really good. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. They were the first comedy show that I saw in Philadelphia when I moved here years and years and years ago. And I remember thinking they were amazing then, and would have loved wanting to play with them. And then I got involved in long form for a long time. And so I'm excited to, years later, actually audition and look forward to playing with them. So
congratulations.
Thank you.
Very proud.
That is awesome.
David, do you want to go first or should I?
You can go. Go ahead.
My news, I feel like so much has happened since we last met. But the biggest thing, I guess, this week was I was the director of photography on a LifeLock commercial. And in that commercial were zombies and vampires and hackers. And I shot it. I was behind the camera. So, and I think I came out pretty good.
In Philadelphia?
In Philadelphia.
Wow.
So do zombies, vampires, and hackers, one of those doesn't belong, right?
I don't know. Yeah, which one?
Wait, well, one is worse than the other 2, for sure.
Which one's that?
Yeah, which one?
Hackers.
Really?
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Well, so that's what I did. That was the project I worked on all day Monday, and I'm putting out some photos on my sites so you can check it out. It was a paying gig. I got a question from the audience. I got a nice little Venmo after. Very official.
That's awesome. Shooting commercials in Philadelphia, we wouldn't think of that, but that's awesome.
Yeah.
I don't know why we wouldn't think of that, but yeah.
We had a whole team of professional special effects artists that made up the zombies and vampires. They look awesome. Look really good.
It's funny because I thought I saw it on Instagram. You posted a picture, and I thought it was from your haunted house because it's very similar.
We did shoot on the same set.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Is CB Actor Traveler asking me how much if it's a paying gig? Is that what it is as well?
Oh, is yours a paying gig?
So it is not, although there are gigs that you can get paid for. Yeah, so Comedy Sports is they do charge money for tickets, but there is an opportunity, like you may do shows. They may have shows where they're hired out and you get paid to do those shows. They also do teaching and training. So you may become a teacher or do like a corporate gig. They do a lot of corporate gigs where they're training people improv skills. So if they select you for those, you can get paid. So
yeah, because CB Actor Traveler says he ain't worried about Erin because she always get paid. But he adds,
at least these days.
Congratulations to both of you.
CB Actor Traveler is always looking for a way to undermine my successes.
Oh no! Well, we're returning to the format of news. I have 3 news items, and you guys get to choose which one I tell. Number 1 is David Monster's super hot speedo stud. Number 2 is Kim Kardashian crack up. And number 3 is what's cable?
I picked number 1.
Number 1.
Okay. Well, as you guys know, I'm a world-class bodybuilder and elite fitness athlete. You guys know that. So at least once a week, I work out on the beach, on my beach, because I live on the beach. I don't know if you guys know that.
You haven't mentioned it before.
So yeah. So what I normally wear kind of like board shorts to go down to the beach, and I always wear speedos underneath, because I need support because I'm working out. So I always like pull my board shorts up, and I'm like, oh God, to get more mobile, to get mobilization with my legs because I'm doing workout, and then I'm usually, when I work out in the morning, the nearest person to me is about 50 yards away, or maybe more, like 200 yards away. So that particular morning on Monday, this last Monday, the nearest person was like a football field away. Like I could see a figure, but I couldn't even tell that they were a man or a woman. They were that far away. And I was like, huh. And I took off my board shorts and I just wore Speedos on the beach. And I went into the ocean and I was working out in Speedos. And it's weird because I recalled, all of a sudden I had this recall, like in 1962 when I was on the water polo team, I wore Speedos in front of the whole school and I didn't care. But for some reason, someone 200 yards away, like I'm afraid to wear Speedos, but I took it. And I worked out 3 times since on the beach in just Speedos, and I go in the water in Speedos, but I walk down there in board shorts. But it's kind of like, the only thing that's horrifying about it is it's like that old man you see on the beach in Speedos, and you're like, what's wrong with him? But then when you get to be, you guys will see, when you get to be that old man, you're like, I don't fucking care. Like, who the fuck care? And it feels good. It feels almost naked. Like girls don't know because they've been wearing bikinis forever. But like when a boy does, you should try it on the beach one day, Nathan. You almost feel naked and it feels interesting. It feels exciting and liberating.
I personally,
anyways,
I'm not a big fan of how Speedos look on men, but I never understood why baggy shorts were a swimsuit. It's just like, it's not aerodynamic, it's floppy, it gets wet and drips. Like it's not practical. So I'm all for it. I think it's great.
I think it's great as well.
Well, the practicality of walking around is you have pockets.
Yeah.
So that's good for us. But
Yeah,
like when you get on the beach and you're swimming,
swim.
rip it off, bitch.
Yeah.
I also think with the sun, you know, if you're trying to get a tan or whatever, or just like not have crazy tan lines, your board shorts go down to your knees, which is just like your entire thighs aren't getting any love, any vitamin D action. I used to wear speedos for swimming as well, and it took a while to get used to that. But then you don't even think about it. But so, there is something about going to the beach. I have sported a speedo once before on the beach.
In Barcelona.
So I felt like I fit in there, but yeah, it is. I wouldn't feel comfortable doing it now. I need to like work out for a little bit longer, and then maybe.
But when you're a guy on the beach, because I'm working out and I'm in all these positions, and you look down and you see your bulge like this big, like my bulge is like this big. It's weird. You're like, huh? Like, am I gonna get arrested or something?
For guys, your lower half never it doesn't have fat like women's do.
I'm not talking about the lower half.
I know, but like you'd be shirtless anyway in board shorts. Yeah. It's like doesn't really matter.
The board shorts kind of all the extra fabric kind of like compensate for all the belly fat you may or may not have.
No, but I'm talking about my dick bulge. It's just weird having your dick bulge. Like, girls, you're so used to it, Aaron, walking around having your dick bulge show. You don't care.
Can I ask you a personal question, David?
Double D's.
Sure, what?
How's your furriness level? Like, do you need to like trim some stuff?
No, I'm not a specifically furry person, but I do trim. And I think that men and women should trim and shave. I don't like ungroomed bodies. What?
I agree. Men and women, if you're going to wear speedos or like bikini bottoms, like your pubes shouldn't be hanging out.
Now, what about just hairy legs?
Well, hairy legs is different.
It depends. Some are fine, but some need to be trimmed. But torsos and armpits need to be trimmed or shaved.
Come on, guys.
I've been.
I'm 100. No, I do. No.
You know, I've stopped doing that, David, just because I'm lazy. And I hate getting hair everywhere.
Marriage is great.
I want to answer CB Actor Traveler's question. Nathan was on set and some cool makeup on Instagram. Was at the gig. That was the gig. I was a hacker for that gig, and I did get paid for that. Undermine. Happy Thanksgiving.
So let me just finish my news. So if you want to get it, if you want to get a giant boner, just come down to my beach any Monday morning. You can see super hot hottie working out. And you'll just get wet all over the sand. Anyways, that's my news.
Is that why you're wearing a shirt that says hot all over the chest?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. People are like, you are so hot.
All right. Well, let's get to Gold Star.
Oh God, this is so hard. All right, the Gold Star. Who does the Gold Star go to, Aaron?
I have my notes here, and it says Gold Star and a blinking cursor with nothing written after it. So I don't know, actually.
The Gold Star goes to Aaron Marie, Betty Davis Jr., Von Edmondson Jr. And why, Nathan?
I don't know. Why? She always gets the good stuff.
What did I do?
She survived another Halloween holiday season because she's the queen of Halloween on the East Coast. And what happened this year, Aaron?
Well, I thought you were going to give it to me because I went into business with Santa Claus and did a successful shoot with Santa Claus.
You did? I didn't know that. Wait, tell about that. What happened?
That'll have to be news for next time. We don't have time.
That'll be the Gold Star you get next.
Oh, no.
Next podcast.
Yes,
well, Aaron runs the most successful haunted house in the nation, and she finished another season. And did you punch anyone in the face or slap anyone or spit on anyone?
No, I did not. So that's
about how many people did you have to fire this year?
Not many, only a few. It was a really good season that way, yeah.
That's awesome. And you didn't get COVID?
No. Well, some people did, but not because of our work environment. We kept it very COVID friendly. Or COVID unfriendly.
COVID wasn't welcome.
COVID precaution friendly.
Awesome. Well, there you go.
So thank you for that Gold Star, because it was we started planning in February and completely redid the event to be brand new and launched a brand new event in September, and it was successful. We met all of our goals, so it was a big deal.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Well, I feel like I want to put this whole Kyle Rittenhouse to rest. So let's get into our main topic.
All right, go, Nathan, because I don't know what to think. You're going to have to tell us what to think. I know some things to think, but
Nathan and I were on a road trip while the trial was happening, and we did listen to a large percentage of it on the radio live as it was happening. So we did get a lot of the actual information from the lawyers.
Yeah, I think I listened to the entire closing arguments of the prosecution. And I think by the end of that, I was like, yes, he's guilty. And that was without seeing any of the videos or hearing the defense's arguments or not really knowing all of the details of the case, I guess. I think what's interesting about this case is how, I think it's kind of summed up in these quotes. So the last episode of Real Time with Bill Maher was on for this season, and he had New York City Mayor-elect Eric Adams on, who's a Democrat, and he had former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, and former presidential candidate, right? Didn't he run for president? They were both on, and they both released statements about the verdict. And Chris Christie, well, we'll start with Eric Adams. So he said this, and he was acquitted of all charges. This decision is an indictment of irresponsible laws that make our society far more violent and unsafe under the guise of personal freedom and so-called self-defense. Whereas Chris Christie said justice was done in the Rittenhouse verdict, renews our faith in the jury system. So, and Chris Christie, when Bill Maher pushed back on him about that statement, was like, well, I'm looking at it from as a prosecutor. And according to the laws, like, he didn't break the law. Like, he's like, what happened, the verdict was what should be the verdict. And then he goes on to say, if you want to change the laws, like, you should do that. And I think that's where this case gets confusing, because a lot of the things that people are upset about don't conflict with the actual law and how it applied to what happened, which is really crazy. It's like, it kind of makes everyone feel it like vindicates for the people who wanted him to be acquitted. They're all like, yeah, that's right. He's fine. He did what was right. But it's like, there's all these actions that lead up to that moment that if they were avoided, maybe, people wouldn't be dead. But so where do you want to start? I kind of want to cover the Jacob, is it Jacob Blake? Jacob Blake was the individual who was killed that started off, that's what kicked off the riots. And I thought we should just cover that real quick.
Were they riots or were they protests?
It depends on who you talk about. It looked
like riots. We all watched the video and it looks like a fucking riot. It looks like a fucking riot.
So we just watched the video that is on YouTube, and it's Kyle shooting the last two people. So murdering the one, or killing the one, and injuring the other guy in the bicep. Mary Shelby, I'm not a fan of Chris Christie. However, I have to agree with his take. The laws need to be changed. Okay, yeah. So I just want to go back to the Jacob Blake thing. You guys familiar with that case? We can just cover it very briefly. It was a shooting. Blake, he was fighting officers. So apparently he fought officers as they tried to take him into custody. Shesky was the officer who shot him, and another officer tried to shock him with their stun guns to no avail. Blake tried to get into an SUV with his young children in the backseat, prompting Shesky to grab his shirt. Shesky told investigators that he was afraid Blake would drive off with the children or use them as hostages. So there was a video that shows Blake turning toward Shesky with a knife and made a motion toward the officer with a knife, prompting him to fire. So he shot the guy 7 times. And as a result of his injuries, he's paralyzed from the waist down. And then this is all what started the protests. Now, no charges were brought against this officer. So the local prosecution didn't bring it. And then a while later, the U.S. Department of Justice, they chose not to bring charges against the officer. So he was ultimately justified in his actions, apparently, although it did lead to these protests. Or riots, however you want to articulate that. All right, so Rittenhouse. Here's a quote from Rittenhouse. I didn't do anything wrong. I was defending myself. And I think that's really what it boiled down to. Was this self-defense or not? Didn't he cross state lines with an AR-15 driven by his mother? Wasn't that against the law? So the information that I found is that the gun was already across state lines. It was in the city where
His dad lived there.
Yeah,
right?
his father lived there. So he was there for a night before the night of the activity and didn't bring the gun across state lines. His friend who bought him that gun because he was 17 at the time and wasn't old enough to purchase the weapon, he is facing charges for buying that weapon. So, and that has yet to play out. David?
Yeah, it's just we're going to get to more about what's going on and towards the verdict, but it just is so alarming that a 17-year-old or anyone can just walk around with a rifle. And especially when you look at what's happening, we watched the video of what happened, and there's so much chaos and just idiotic behavior. It's like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what to say. Like, just a guy just walking around with a rifle. I don't know.
Well, I think so. There are open carry laws where as long as you're carrying your weapon in the open and it's not concealed, you're allowed to just walk around with a gun. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it says his possession of a firearm at the time was technically legal, and that would probably fall under that. Okay, he didn't technically break the law, but is there a law that needs to be reformed?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're under 21 years old, unless you're like hunting with someone who's over 21, you shouldn't be allowed to possess a firearm. It just seems, well, I don't know. I mean, it gets really complicated because you go back 50 years, like 12-year-olds were running around with 22 pistols and, hunting in their backyard and like.
Yeah, they threw out the count of possession of a dangerous weapon by a person under 18, which is what he could have been charged for, because the defense argued that the rifle was not short-barreled, capitalizing on an exception to the Wisconsin statute involving the barrel length of a gun. So like it wasn't legal because of this length of the barrel. Because it
wasn't short barrel, it was like a long barrel rifle.
Yeah.
Which probably falls into a
like
category of
something?
A hunting rifle rather than an AR-15,
right.
Which is like a machine gun.
It's like a technicality in the law that he didn't break.
So you can go around. Yeah, go ahead, David.
Like all this gun law aside, it just seems like reckless endangerment, or it seems like really reckless behavior. Because I don't care how old you are, anyone walking around with a gun like that, watch the video, everybody. Go to YouTube, watch the video. In the midst of a riot, people are running around. It looks like a riot. It's inevitable that someone's going to get shot. So it feels like reckless and go ahead, yeah.
There's also a myth that his mom did not actually drive him across state lines. Like he drove himself to Kenosha. So that is bumped.
I think also
his mom did actually drive him to the police station to surrender after the shootings, but she didn't drive him across state lines.
One thing that speaks to your point, David, the prosecution in their statements and their closing arguments were saying that there were other people with AR-15s. Like there were other men out there with guns.
So stupid.
But no, he was the only one who shot someone. Like he was the only one who ended up in a situation where he felt like he needed to defend himself. So I think that speaks directly to the fact that you have a 17-year-old running around with a gun in a highly, an excited state, right?
Yeah.
During a riot or a protest where, people are angry and like smashing things. And then, and plus we live in a culture now where there's shootings all the time, where like mass shootings, where people with guns like that are, out to kill people.
Yeah.
So I know if I saw someone with a gun like that, it would make me very uncomfortable.
That is what the prosecution said. They said that one of their main points was that he was the only one there that killed anyone.
Right.
Of all the all the chaos and violence that was going on. Like no one else killed anyone, just this kid did.
Okay. So what happened? So a lot of the video is just bystander videos. It shows an unarmed Rosenbaum chasing Rittenhouse into the parking lot of a used car dealership. At one point, Rosenbaum.
So Joseph Rosenbaum was 36 and he was killed.
And this is the
context.
What the judge said, you can't say victim. So the prosecutor couldn't say victim.
Well, hey,
where's this judge?
this is the unimaginary
Oh, right,
Friendcast
yeah.
court, so we can do what we need to do.
Okay, so at one point, Rosenbaum throws a plastic bag at Rittenhouse before the two move off camera, and Rittenhouse fires fatal shots at around 11:45 p.m.
4.
Yeah, and there are 4 shots. And the thing is, so it's a semi-automatic rifle. So when it's not automatic. An automatic rifle is like you pull the trigger, and as long as you're holding the trigger back, it's shooting bullets. Those are illegal to possess. Semi-automatic, it's as fast as you can pull the trigger, it'll shoot, which can be very fast. So
this is the guy with I don't know if you were. I listened to a lot of like CNN and Fox as contrast to this, and this is the guy that like Fox News tried to portray as a hero. So he was like Rosenbaum, his name was, right? He was homeless. He had bipolar. He had just been released from a hospital. He was suicidal. He spent years in prison for sexual contact with a minor. So Fox News grabbed onto that and made Kyle Rittenhouse a hero for getting rid of a sex offender, as if he knew who he was shooting. I was like really annoyed with that whole argument. Like, oh, this kid's a hero.
Yeah.
He's like cleaning our streets. That's absolutely not what was going on.
yeah,
I have to lose any respect for anyone that watches or listens to Fox or holds any credence with what they say, because I have to watch it every once in a while at the gym, and they just straight up lie sometimes, and they just like will say things just to get people worked up.
David, your hand is like separate from your body right now.
What hand? What? Where? What? What?
Okay. So soon after,
Anyways,
this is the video that we just watched, and there's just straight up video of this if you want to watch it. Soon after, Rittenhouse is seen running down a street away from the scene with several protesters on his heels. He falls. The second shooting victim, Huber, appears to strike him in the head and neck area with a skateboard. Rittenhouse shoots Huber, striking him in the heart. Seconds later, I'm going to totally mispronounce this guy's name, Gaige Grosskreutz, steps toward Rittenhouse holding a pistol. Rittenhouse shoots him, badly injuring his arm. I guess he blew his bicep off.
Yeah.
Rittenhouse then gets to his feet and leaves the scene.
The thing is, so like the second guy, he was like a 26-year-old guy with a skateboard. So Rittenhouse said that he was like trying to take his gun from him, and that's why he shot him. And then the other guy admitted to like pointing his gun at Rittenhouse. So it's like kind of a.
Well, when you watch the video, the first guy does attack him. He jumps like on Kyle Rittenhouse, and the other guy comes running after him, and it looks like he wants to hit him or something. The two guys did attack him. I don't know that makes it so he's not guilty, but they did attack him. Well, if you watch the video and make your own.
I mean, if you think of this, what was their frame of mind? Did they think he was an active shooter, like running around killing people? He did just kill someone. Do they think he's going to go and kill other people? Did they think that was unprovoked? That was it, and they just stumbled upon a murder originally? I mean, I don't know. I mean, trying to be a hero in their minds and stop an active shooter.
I don't know. I mean, that's what it's funny when we were listening to the two sides. It was like the prosecution always called him an active shooter, and the defense was like, he's not an active shooter because he wasn't out there shooting. He only shot when he was attacked.
Right.
So it's like, but when you call him an active shooter, it sounds bad. So the prosecution was using that a lot.
Right. So
I hate that. I hate how it was so politicized. I think those people should be in prison. I think all the people that politicized it on both sides should be in prison. I am so sick of it.
I kind of agree with you, David. So the defense's claim is that it was self-defense, pure and simple. Say he came to Kenosha not to hurt anyone, but protect businesses from damage and looting.
And how I read that, and how was he going to protect them from looting? By pointing his gun at people? Like, well, it's obviously
by killing people.
It's obviously an aggressive stance.
Yeah,
by killing people. Yeah.
I would say if I were walking down the street and saw a building that I wanted to like smash up, and there was someone standing there with a gun, I probably wouldn't smash up the building. That's probably the rationale. Like, that guy has a gun. I'm gonna stay away from the person with a gun.
Yeah, and I guess why does he care about whatever? But unless it was a family business or something. But
well, there was video from like 10 days prior to the incident that was withheld from the court. of him saying, of Kyle watching, I think like a Rite Aid or CVS being looted, and him saying like, I'd kill those guys or something like that. It's like, oh, like what's his mental state? You know, like
why wasn't that submissible in a court of law?
I didn't follow up on that.
Well, the judge sounds like a real crazy person because he would not allow the dead people to be referred to as victims. They're victims of something. Per the definition of victim, they are victims of something.
Let's cover the prosecution's view real quick, and then we can go over the six questionable, most shocking judge idiot moves.
I feel like you can't call them victims until you know if the defendant is guilty or not, right? Because if they were the aggressors, so it's like this weird area.
I guess so. Yeah. I mean that you have a point there, but I don't know.
So the prosecutor's view is that they wanted to portray him as a wannabe cop who came looking for trouble and fame, and that by bringing a rifle to the late night protest, he was the primary cause of the deadly encounters. They also argue he wasn't there to protect businesses, but to join other armed counter-protesters with whom he sympathized. Quote, he was the aggressor. They were there with the intent to violently clash with those opposed to his beliefs. They hope to bolster their case by introducing as evidence a brief video taken 15 days before the protest shootings. Yeah, here's that information, showing some men exit a CVS pharmacy and commenting that he wished he had his rifle so he could shoot them because prosecutors say he baselessly thought they were shoplifters. So it would prove his mindset as a teenage vigilante, involving himself in things that don't concern him. But yeah, the judge, Bruce Schroeder, questioned the relevance of the video to the charges. He ruled it wouldn't be allowed, though he suggested he could reassess that ruling later. He also blocked prosecutors from connecting Rittenhouse to the far-right extremist group, the Proud Boys. Rittenhouse was photographed in January in a Wisconsin bar with some Proud Boy members, but his attorneys say he had no affiliation or involvement with the group. So it is interesting that those things were left out. Like that does paint a different picture, right?
Yeah, it sure does.
Really does paint a different picture. So this judge, what's his deal? So here's 6 most shocking moments.
But the judge wasn't it was a jury trial. So there were 12 jurors that made the decision. So
were they all white? No, were they all white?
They weren't all white.
No.
I think it was majority white.
It was 11.
I think there was a lot of fighting for them to be white jurors. Like I remember that being a thing.
Because that's what, But all the victims were white. All 3 victims were white, correct?
This is white on one crime right now.
But it was all.
So do we really care? If it's white on white crime, do we really care?
I guess not. Should we just end the podcast?
Sorry. I will make a statement about race in a minute, but go ahead. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that was like the big thing when this started off, was that this kid shot 3 people and the police basically escorted him out safely and let him go home.
Yeah.
Whereas if it wasn't a young white guy, like, I wonder how that
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
I hate when people say if it was a man or if it was a woman or if it was a white guy, but I will say definitively that I think in our America, if Kyle Rittenhouse was a black teen, I don't think he would be alive right now.
Yeah.
That's what I believe. And I don't, and especially in Wisconsin.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
the odds would have been against him.
So there was the rifle loophole thing. In Wisconsin, anyone under the age of 18 is prohibited from owning a dangerous weapon. So he was 17, and this could put him in jail for up to 9 months. The Rittenhouse lawyers found a loophole stemming from a 1991 bill which allows minors to own rifles or shotguns as long as they are not short-barreled. So that's a law thing. That's like an example of a law thing that should probably be changed. So since it was not short-barreled, the judge removed it as a charge.
We have a question of what do the families of the dead call them? Deserving?
I don't know what that means. Do you guys know what that means?
Yeah, because we were saying that they can't be called, in court, they couldn't be called victims. And I was saying it's likely because they needed to figure out the facts of the case first before they know if they were the aggressors in the situation. Would be my understanding of it. Should they be called deserving of dying? Absolutely not. I think he's just making.
So I get it. He's being facetious. That's clever. And then this is what actor Rick Schroeder posted Kyle's bail. And that's he did. And I remember when it happened, that immediately made me think guilty.
It's crazy how the right just like immediately rallied behind this kid. And you're right, like had it been like a young Black kid, like would the right have gotten his back like this? They're like offering Kyle Rittenhouse internships. I'm hearing now, like it's crazy.
Yeah, we heard this today on the radio. The right wing members of Congress are fighting over who will have him as an intern. Like they're threatening each other. Like Matt Gaetz, I think, wanted to have him. Some woman, I don't know which woman it was, but this is
probably
crazy.
Marjorie Taylor Greene, probably,
or someone else. But there's a right wing guy who's in a wheelchair. I can't think of this guy's name, but he said something like, "I'll challenge anyone to an arm wrestling match to have him as an intern." And this woman, her response was, "He seems pretty strong, but I'll challenge him to a race, like a sprint race." The guy's in a wheelchair. Like that's how disgusting this is.
That sounds like Marjorie Taylor Greene. That sounds like her.
So
100%.
What about the whole thing was very unfortunate. For lack of
it was horrible.
Right? What about this would make you think that this is now a hero that we need to hire because he was there defending businesses? He didn't,
because he
ended up like pissing people off and getting attacked and killing them.
Every gun owner who like loves guns has wet dreams about using it in self-defense, and that's what this is all about.
100%. And also like if you watch Fox News, they have a narrative going that the left are just these crazed maniacs who worship China. They want to be like China and they want to be communist, and they just want to take everything from people who have stuff. So they just want to go into stores and just take stuff. So they whip themselves up into this frenzy, and it's like Kyle Rittenhouse is a hero because he stopped some of these crazed left wingers, which we don't even know that the victims were left wingers or whatever.
Yeah.
But I will say, like, we have built such a crazy scenario in this country that when I first heard about Kyle Rittenhouse, white guy shot 3 people, I immediately thought 3 Black people. I immediately thought guilty. When I heard it was Rick Schroeder, guilty. Like, so it's like I made assumptions too right off the bat. And then I have to tell you, I know this is going to sound ridiculous, but when I heard that it was 3 white guys, I thought, oh, like that's horrible. Oh no.
Why? Why?
Okay, so
we were going to talk a little bit about this.
We're definitely going to talk about it because I think it's really important. The right is now condemning the jury of the Ahmaud Arbery case.
That's
so
crazy
obvious.
Town.
So
that's a whole other podcast.
We can cover what happened today briefly at the end because I think it's relevant. I took some notes on it. I don't want to talk about this judge anymore. He did some other stupid things like letting Kyle like pull like the raffle names out for the jurors. That would be
why?
I don't know.
He let Kyle do it?
He let him pick the names of the final 12 jurors who would decide his fate.
Is that normal?
I mean, legal slammed him for it. So it's like, it's like pulling names out of a hat, basically. I don't know why he would let him do it. It's so weird. Then some stupid racist stuff that he said. The no
like
victim.
What racist things did he say?
I didn't read the whole article. Let's see. He claimed he last let a clerk choose the juror names. So he went on an explanation of why he did that, which had racial overtones. Why he did the raffle picking thing. He claimed that he last let a clerk choose their juror names 20 years ago, which led to a bad optics since the defendant on trial was Black. There were 13 jurors. One of them was Black, quote, Schroeder. And when the clerk, the government official, drew the name out of the tumbler, it was a Black, the only Black. I think people feel better when they have control. So ever since that case, I've had an almost universal policy of having the defendant do the picks. Okay.
But I don't think our system is rotten from top to bottom. Like there's just too much to criticize about it.
Random drawing, then it really doesn't make a difference.
I mean, it really doesn't. It's the optics of it. I think they're saying like it's weird to have the defendant choose the jurors that they're going to be,
even though they're not really choosing. But I get it. Yeah, it's weird.
But still, it's just like so like Yeah.
Okay, I'm sick of talking about this judge. What does
Let's talk about the next thing.
law say about self-defense? It allows someone to use deadly force only if necessary to prevent imminent death or great bodily harm, and it sets a two-part test for jurors. First, they have to decide if Rittenhouse really believed he was in peril. So, did he really believe he was in peril? Next, they must determine if Rittenhouse's belief was objectively reasonable. To make that call, they would be instructed to consider whether any reasonable person in Rittenhouse's shoes would have felt that they had no choice but to shoot.
When you look at the video, it appears as if he was being like kind of chased down by some people, and it looks like self-defense in the video.
For the second and third shooting.
Yeah.
We don't have video of
this. But in neglect cases, if he put himself in a position to be attacked.
Yes. No,
that's neglect right away. So I can't believe he's not up on charges for something, because he put himself in this position. Because like you said, like if a guy has a gun, like, and there's no police around, and there's like he's walking towards kids or something, I might try to get the gun away from him. Like, you don't know. And what's he doing out with pointing a gun, like holding a gun? It's just crazy. It's crazy town. Any way you look at it.
Yeah, I think that's what so many people are upset about is like he's 17 years old. 17-year-olds are idiots. Like your brain isn't even fully developed yet, and you're at a protest / riot where tensions are high and people are acting pretty crazy.
You have a loaded gun.
And you have a loaded gun with full metal jacket rounds, which are pretty crazy. Like those go through. They're like armor piercing.
Wow.
Yeah. So, which means if you were to shoot someone, it would go straight through their body and could kill whoever is behind you. So, like, yeah.
I feel like put him in jail for maybe not life, but like put him in jail.
Okay.
Just like, he's a fucking idiot.
It's what do you call it? It's reckless endangerment. It's reckless fucking endangerment. He had no business being there. Did he own, or did anyone in his family own the businesses that he was trying to protect?
No. So it was like it was like a friend or something who was looking for people for someone else. Like there was removal from the businesses. It wasn't like my dad's business.
Yeah, it's reckless endangerment. Yeah.
One guy he shot that was not killed. It was like he wasn't even down there causing trouble. He was down there as a volunteer EMT or paramedic trying to help people. So
okay, so legal factors. Wisconsin law doesn't require someone whose life is in danger to flee before shooting, but jurors can consider whether someone tried to move away from the danger as they assess the reasonableness of a self-defense claim. Self-defense cannot be invoked by someone if they were an aggressor. They don't have a so-called stand your ground law that grants wide-ranging rights for a person to stay put and fend off attack no matter where it occurs. Those are like pretty intense laws, the stand your ground laws.
Yeah.
So under self-defense law and precedent, Rittenhouse's motives for being in Kenosha are irrelevant to whether he had a legal right to shoot when threatened, some legal experts say. What matters is what happened in the minutes surrounding the shooting. So that was a law article that I read.
I guess I still don't like. I still kind of feel like with David, like it is relevant why he was context.
There.
Yeah, 100%. He put himself in that let me tell you, if Judge Judy was trying that case, she'd be like, "Why were you there with a fucking gun? You put yourself in a position of danger.
Well,
you 100% did."
Knowing that he's a stupid kid. Like this is I guess I'm giving my verdict now. It's like maybe those were self-defense shootings, but you shouldn't have been there. So like instead of life in prison, you get like a certain amount of time in prison as a punishment for like your actions ended the lives of those two people.
Yeah.
Maybe it wasn't your intention when you went there, but going there in the way that you did with the thing that you had created death.
Yeah.
You need to be held accountable for that.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, 100%.
But like maybe life in prison
100%.
He was only 17 at the time. So like, given that, maybe we don't completely ruin the kid's life.
So on the stand, he on the verge of tears, Rittenhouse claimed one of the victims could have run away instead of trying to take his gun. So like in his mind, he's like, why did he try to take my gun? He could have ran away.
Well, you're a crazy person walking down the street with a gun. That's the thing too. It's like, where were the lawyers in this?
So this is interesting. The prosecution, and this I heard in multiple places, that some of the government's witnesses, like the prosecution's witnesses, may have been more helpful to the defense strategy than anticipated. A Kenosha police detective testified that Rittenhouse shouted friendly, friendly, friendly as he was being chased by Rosenbaum, and agreed with the defense's characterization that their confrontation appeared to look like a classic ambush. So that officer's testimony kind of, helped the defense more.
Yeah.
Well, if you're carrying a gun, I don't care how many times you yell the word friendly.
I don't even know if I would fully understand what that means in the heat of the moment.
Yeah.
You know?
That's like, I think people in militias know that. Like, people who are trained as police officers know what friendly means.
Like, I do understand it, but like in the moment,
But still, you're some white kid in Kenosha is yelling friendly, 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 as if he's not going to shoot you. He did shoot somebody. I mean, they did attack him, but like, I would never think like, oh, he's yelling friendly, so he must be friendly. Like, I would never think that. I would just try to get people I cared about away from the area. That's the first thing I would do. I wouldn't rush him unless he was walking towards kids and wouldn't stop or something like that. Like,
I mean, I think with all these cases, it's like from the Jacob, who was originally shot by the police officer that started all of this, to Kyle, to the Arbery case that we're going to talk about in a second. It's just like people being really stupid with weapons and not fully appreciating that introducing that to a scenario results in tragedy for everyone.
Well, I think that we need to have like smarter gun laws. Like, it shouldn't be legal for Kyle to do what he did. And the fact that it was is not right, because that created the situation.
I feel like the only time Kyle should be allowed to have a gun is if he was hunting.
Fine. Yeah.
You know,
like you should say, like, if you're in a town with a certain number of people, you can't have this weapon. Something like that.
And under supervision. And by the way, where were his parents? Like, if you guys were 17 years old out with a rifle, like, where were his parents?
He's probably like, dad was butt fucking the Proud Boys, you know?
His dad is probably butt fucking the Proud Boys. You're right.
I have no evidence for that. But
slander.
But that, like, the parents should be up on charges. Like, because if your kids do stuff, you're liable for them until they turn 18. So
yeah.
I think that's
wasn't it at like 11:30 at night or something? It was late.
5 was the first shooting. It looks like.
Yeah, it was a curfew. He was out past curfew, and I know
like even that I feel like you should have received some charges for. Like,
it seems like curfews are suggestions at the end of the day, because no one ever gets in trouble for being out past curfew. It seems.
Some people.
But he had no business being out with a gun. He had no business being out with that gun. He created the situation. 100%.
And this is like the really empathetic side of me. And this is the side of telling Nathan, this is the side of me that, like, when I heard Trump got COVID, I was like, oh, I hope he doesn't die. Even though you know how I feel about Trump. But like thinking of like being 17 and imagining your entire life being over, like whether or not you, like, everything aside, like I had some emotion about that. And then when he heard the verdict, if you've watched that video of him hearing not guilty and all these charges, it's very emotional. Like, he basically collapses to his knees at the end. It was intense. So like, whether you agree with any of this or not, like, it was very, very emotional moment.
Just proves you're an empathetic person. And despite being like, because everyone, if you hear someone say something like that, like what gets thrown in their face is like, well, there's 2 people who are dead.
I know, and it's also
true.
Terrible. Like, this is like just taking this one thing and talking about it, because like, yes, people have literally died.
Like I said, since he was a kid, his parents should be culpable too. But it's also like, to what you say, like, when you're 17, and then you get to be like in your 30s and then 40, you're a completely different person.
Yeah.
You know, at 40 than when you were at 17. So I don't know, take that with what you like. You know, I don't know what the point was, but there's the point.
You know, then we have this new lens with which we see the world, which is as parents. So imagining like our daughter being in the situation and being the one that died, or being Kyle, you know, like either way you swing it, it's just a terrible situation. And there's like it's just awful.
No, totally. So I want to know about the Armand Arbery situation.
Yeah.
What's going on with that?
So the three men were, oh gosh, come on. They were found guilty today of not all charges. I think the one guy got all charges. Where are we? Sorry. Okay.
Vamp.
Okay. All three men.
Thank God.
All three men found guilty of murder in the killing of Armand Arbery. He was shot on February 3rd in a confrontation with George and Travis McMichael. It took more than 2 months for the men to be arrested, along with the neighbor who filmed.
2 months.
Yeah. And the only reason he got arrested is because there was video that was leaked that the third guy had taken, that then people were like, wait, are these people in jail? Like, what's going on? Arbery's family's lawyers called it a modern day lynching. The McMichaels testified that they were defending themselves while trying to make a citizen's arrest. So this was also a self-defense claim while making a citizen's arrest. So the father was a retired police officer. The verdict delivered by 9 white men, 2 white women, and 1 black man came after more than 11 hours of deliberation spanning 2 days, 8 days of testimony involving 23 witnesses. They all faced the same 9 counts. Travis, the young son the son shot Arbery, is guilty on all charges, including malice murder, 4 counts of felony murder, 2 counts of aggravated assault, false imprisonment, and criminal attempt to commit a felony.
How old is he?
I think he's in his 30s. I'm not sure. His father, who rode armed in the bed of a pickup as his son pursued Arbery, is not guilty of malice murder, but guilty on the other 8 charges. And then William Rodney Bryan Jr., a neighbor who joined the pursuit and filmed his final moments, is guilty of 3 counts of felony murder, 1 count of aggravated assault, false imprisonment, and criminal attempt to commit a felony. So that's the sentencing date for this is unclear. Prosecutors have indicated they will seek sentences of life in prison without the possibility of parole.
Yeah.
It's weird that it didn't get as much fanfare as the Rittenhouse thing, but it wasn't picked up by the fucking Fox crowd. Picked that up.
I heard like it seemed like they were both going on around the same time, and it seemed like they would ping pong from back and forth. But Rittenhouse was, bigger because they were. Just because like at the time when we were listening to it, like they were doing their final closing arguments. Right. This one just ended today, so I think they were staggered a little bit. I think it did dominate the media a bit more. And we have a comment said that it's actually a very sad story of an 18-year-old making short-term decisions that come with long-term repercussions. Will be with him his entire life. And I read that he was diagnosed.
Oh, this is Rittenhouse.
Yeah. He was diagnosed with PTSD. He's been in therapy. His life is going to be forever changed, hopefully.
Yeah.
I want to say hopefully for the worst, but that's going to come out wrong. Like hopefully he can have some semblance of a life. But like, I hope he becomes a better person and can maybe actually.
Oh my God, totally.
The world a little bit in a good way after he's.
He needs to be educated. Yeah, and CV Actor Show says while he should have been held accountable, he will never live this down.
Unless he changes his name and moves out of the country, like he is this guy forever. But like, unfortunately, there's a whole political side of our country that's making him a hero, and he's likely to just turn it into a shit because so many people are going to tell him what he did was great and that he's a hero, and that's going to go to his head. So I really don't have any hope for Kyle Rittenhouse becoming a good person after this.
Totally, especially with the people that are. Sorry, go ahead, Nathan.
I was just saying, we'll see. I don't know.
I have no hope. I think the right's going to latch on to him, and he's just going to go down that rabbit hole. It's really sad.
I can't believe anyone condemning the Ahmaud Arbery jury. But they do. There are a group of white Republican people who think it's okay. Like, well, there's a black man running down the street. He must have stolen something, so we have the right to kill him. I really think they believe that. I really think, like, well, it's better that we kill him and, like, like, so he won't rob in the future, or like, so, maybe he wasn't the guy that robbed, but it's kind of like I can hear my dad speaking. Like, it's this thing where it's ingrained in them that they have the right to do these things.
Yeah, it's like, oh no, it's okay that he shot and killed that guy. He was like a sex offender, so doesn't matter that like how it went down. It's like, oh yeah, no, this was justice was served on the streets. What?
No, totally. And I'm so happy that they were found guilty, because when I heard the story, I heard a little bit of video before they went to trial of the father talking about, like, well, we didn't know he wasn't the guy. Like, he was jogging, he was running. Why was he running? And it's like, the guy was jogging through their fucking neighborhood. And it's like, who are you? If you really thought it was the same guy, don't shoot him, then hold him for the police to come. If you really think, that's still very ridiculous, but Jesus God.
We shouldn't be able to make citizen arrests. There's just too much room for stupid shit to happen.
So yeah.
Oh my God.
There's a law in Georgia under the citizens arrest law. An individual could detain someone they had seen committing a serious crime, and if the suspect was trying to escape. So they didn't see him do anything.
Yeah.
And the state law, which dates back to the American Civil War era, was repealed in the wake of the incident. Georgia is also one of only 4 states at the time with no hate crime statutes. Hate crime legislation has since been passed into law. In a separate trial due to begin next year, a federal grand jury has accused the McMichaels of hate crimes and attempted kidnapping of him. They have pleaded not guilty to that. So he was accused. There were those break-ins around the area, and they're like, that's the guy who did the break-ins. And then there was footage that showed of like a black man in a white T-shirt, believed to be him, at a home construction site shortly before the shooting. He was seen walking on the site and looking around for a few minutes before jogging down the street. During the trial, the site's owner testified that the man in question had not disturbed or damaged his property during the visit. He added others had also been seen trespassing on his property, but he never authorized the McMichaels to enter his property or confront anyone. So,
it was on somebody else's property?
Yeah, it wasn't their property that was being, it wasn't anything that happened to them. They just had known of these things that were going on. I mean, it's a tough thing. And have you seen the video of the shooting? It's horrifying. It's like, you don't want to watch it.
I don't want to watch it. I don't want to watch it.
What we saw of the Rittenhouse thing, it kind of happens quickly, and it's not very close up. It's just someone falls over. It's really upsetting.
And we're gonna take a quote, and then I'm gonna say what I'm gonna say. So CV actor Traveler says, why during closing arguments did the defense mention that he had dirty toes? Is that a defense? What does that mean? I don't know what that means.
My guess off the top of my head was the place that was robbed dirty, and then he had the dirt on his feet that could link him to the. I have no idea.
Yeah, I didn't.
No idea. It sounds really messed up and irrelevant.
I happened to hear so much about the Rittenhouse case because we were driving for a trip, so I was listening to the trial while we were driving on a trip, and I just haven't listened as much with this.
Dirty toes.
Yeah, I mean, he did have a criminal
bizarre.
history. I don't like. I think that is your explanation sounds like what he was pointing to. He did have some criminal history, but he was, from doing stupid things as a teenager,
Yeah.
It didn't warrant by any means being pursued by 3 men with a shotgun and then shot. But then you look at this case, those 3 men who are going to go to jail for the rest of their lives must be just like, and I don't have sympathy for them because they did something so terrible, but I just can't imagine like facing life in prison. Like, that is horrifying to me. Like, they must feel really
what it's And well, it's a whole different world too, because like in the 50s, they wouldn't probably even been arrested.
Yeah.
Or even
Well,
in the 60s.
they
In the 30s, they would have had a parade for them. What? Yeah, they weren't for 2 months. They weren't arrested.
So,
And it reminds me of my father. And like I kind of am lumping Rittenhouse and my father and these three men in the same category. And it's like what you said, Nathan. They're itching to shoot somebody. Like we're gonna take down these communists and the black people and the right. Like they want to shoot somebody because they're like they're taking our country. Like you know what I mean? And they don't like. There's no education in their brains. They have no context of who they are and where they are in the world. You know what I mean? Like we're America. Like this is where Jesus was born, and we're white, so we deserve it. Like you know what I mean? And it's just like this insanity of like they wanted. Go ahead.
Are they like? How much does like bad education and being stupid like factor into this? Like
100%, 100%, and willfully uneducated. I'm sure, where they're like, we don't need no education. Look at them highfalutin educated people. They're ruining our country. Sorry,
David, I like this side of you.
Yeah, it's really funny.
Thank you.
I totally agree with you, David. Though it's just like, I think there's a certain type of person who sees like they watch World War II movies and like we had to fight the Nazis and like defeat the Nazis and defeat that, and like they want that in their life. They want that, but they don't realize that even the people who were defeating the Nazis were probably horrified by what they saw and did, regardless. You know, the positive
well, it's
outcome.
like then we can get into like how movies and TV and video games, they glorify killing and they glorify all of this stuff and make it look like what it's not.
Yeah, it's like it replaces any meaning in their life. Like like this fantasy is like meaningful.
But it's true because there's a commercial on TV right now for veterans, and I think that we should treat our veterans way better than we do. But there's this one veteran who's like, I was watching TV and they, you know, like 9/11, they attacked us on our soil. They attacked us on our soil? How dare they? And it's like really? Like, do you not know what we've done? You know, like we're still bombing Afghanistan. We've bombed tons of country, but he's so outraged that anyone would have the audacity to attack America. You know what I mean? That thinking.
Yeah.
And it's true, it's horrible, but it's like you don't attack America. Jesus is from America. Like we're white. Like how dare ye? All right, now we need to get because we have a listener who's on it. Okay, he said that this was a father and a son, an ex-military and a former cop. The DA needs to be fired. He believed them and refused to prosecute. So that's why it took 2 months. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I thought I took a note on it. There was an article that I reviewed that said one of the prosecutors, I think, is actually facing charges for not bringing the case up. So there's someone
Thank God.
Some ramifications, but I don't know the full details. Thank
God. And he also goes on to say, most black and brown people think white people have always hated us and never felt like we belong. Not all white people. We have found out that there's millions of white people in this country. We have found that out, and it's horrifying to the three white people you see before you. We don't understand it either.
I mean, there were also like white people out protesting against this stuff too. So like
totally,
people on both sides.
Sane white people see the situation for what it is, and it always is like I never understood, even as a child. It's like when white people hate black people, it's like go fucking talk to your great grandfather. Like your fucking ancestors brought the black people here, so you only have like your own family to blame. So and then it's like if you see what's going on, like everyone needs to see with their own eyes, because maybe they don't believe, because we're lied to so much. Maybe they don't believe it. Like I saw as a young kid, like racism towards my own family and towards me. And then like going out around and having different friends around LA, seeing like racism against black people. Like if you see these things and you understand, maybe they live in areas where they never see it, so they don't believe it because there's so many lies told to us all the time.
The people that are doing this stuff, they're not exposed to anyone that's different than them. It always comes down to that. Like people in like really undereducated areas that have like never talked to anyone that looks different than them, and there's like all this pent up fear and misunderstanding. It's just like travel.
I was just gonna say, this is why you advocate travel, right?
Home.
I mean, we grew up in
Totally
very similar areas and the different places, but similar in the sense that I knew people who never left my town, and they were like in their 30s when I talked to them. Like they'd never, like further than like 40 miles away from center Franklin, Pennsylvania, Yeah. And it was a very homogenous place. Like I remember when Main Moon Chinese restaurant moved into downtown Liberty Street. And like a family came over from China and opened that restaurant. Like that, I don't know how that happened, but those were the first Chinese people in our town.
That happened in our neighborhood.
Did it? Yeah. I mean, it was just so many white people. Like
50 of them in one house. It was crazy.
Wait, what did the white people do? What did the white people do?
We ate their Chinese food. It was so good.
It was amazing. I mean,
okay, awesome. Do you know how terrifying it is? Like sorry.
I sensed the vibe that I got from everyone was like, wow, this is so cool. Like these people are different. And
that's good.
But I'm sure there were people who had the exact
poisoning
opposite.
You with MSG.
I love
Oh my God.
Oh God, I love Chinese food so much.
Go ahead. No, I was gonna say, do you know how terrifying it must have been for that Chinese family to move into an all-white neighborhood?
They could barely speak English.
Yeah.
They could barely speak English. Like the young daughter, I think she was picking it up quicker than everyone else, so she would like ran the register.
Oh, totally. That's very Asian. Even in my family, the young Asians translate for the older ones, and we get yelled at. We get hit and yelled at as we're trying to translate for our grandmother who's trying to complain about something, and then she hits a no, and I'm like, Grandma, I'm trying. Shut up! Like I'm trying to tell them. My God.
Well,
anyway, so
just get picked up easier for younger people than older people.
So CB Actor Traveler, yes, there are unfortunately still millions of white people in this country that hate Black and brown people, but the sane ones understand what's happening, and that that's the thing too, is if you have half a brain in your head, you have to realize where this world is going. We all have to figure out how to get along, and we all have to figure out how to be one group of people really soon. Or there's gonna be some major shit, like world-ending shit. Like if we don't figure out how to fucking get along and occupy the entire planet together.
You're right. I want to put a point on the racism thing, that there's idiots, undereducated people who are not exposed to different people. I don't want to give them a pass, but what's worse are the people who know better and feed everyone else the fuel of
Fox
racism.
News. Donald Trump.
Totally. They're feeding off of hatred. They're feeding off of hatred and exploitation. And that's what it's been for. And I got to tell you, the slave trade, and even up till now, the Fox, it's fueled by fascist religion. It's fueled by the idea that we are better than you because God is on our side.
Oh, yeah.
And even if you look at I don't know if we talked about this when we did our thing on slavery, the reason why they went to Africa and started the slave trade there is they were thinking of going, because there were other places it was easier to get to and easier to because they already had land routes and stuff like that. They were going to go to the Middle East and go there, but they were like, oh, we share a fucking, the Abrahamic religions, we share a God, so we can't go there. So that's why they went to Africa, and they wanted to go to Asia, but it was too far. So you know what I mean? That's so insidious, the roots of it and the roots of the hatred that still goes on. That was
Yeah,
it is so much stupidity that just keeps living on and on. But go ahead. Sorry.
I think the big fuel now, or one of the big major thrusts that keep this moving, is just stoking fear. So that's what it is. It's just like, be afraid of these other people are going to take everything from you, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, hatred is the learned.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, because like we look at our 8-month-old daughter, it's just like she doesn't know how to hate. She loves everyone. Doesn't matter.
Really sweet.
Yeah.
You haven't taught her how to hate anyone yet?
Not yet.
Come on, you guys.
Wait till she gets a little older.
By the time she's walking, she should hate somebody. Hate is a learned trait. Hate is a learned trait, CB Actor Traveler. But it's not always in the way you think. Because I had some early racist stirrings as a child, but it was against my first racial hatred was against my grandmother, who was Filipino. She's very dark and Filipino, and I thought, we had a couple of aunts that were fucking crazy, mental patient craziness, and I hated Filipinos. I was racist. But then I really, as I grew up, I was like, oh, like you meet other people, you meet Filipinos outside your family, and they're not as insane, and some of them are very sweet. So sometimes it's learned by your exposure. But yeah, if you have half a brain, you outgrow it. If you have half a brain, you outgrow your learned hatred tendencies.
Well, I feel like we have to wrap up.
Yeah.
I think that we clearly stated our verdict, right?
Which is what he should get at something.
It should be held accountable, but
or something.
It was acts of self-defense, but he was responsible for those acts, which is a tricky area. So we had to reform some laws and all that stuff, right?
Yeah, and the gun law for one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
there shouldn't be any laws that set up a situation like this.
Yeah, exactly. Well, reckless endangerment. If it was an adult, wouldn't he be tried for reckless endangerment? Like there were tons of people walking around with guns.
He's 18 now.
But I don't understand. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense at all. It doesn't make any sense. And all right,
I just wanted to point out the Fox News coverage that I saw leading up to the verdict was their whole point, their whole argument was stemming from, if the Kenosha police were doing their job, none of this would have happened. So they were putting the blame all the way back on, like not even the police, but like the mayor for not, pulling in the National Guard earlier, things like that.
Oh,
like who do you?
That's interesting.
Scenario. Do you blame Kyle for putting himself in this scenario? Do you blame the protesters for putting themselves in this scenario? Do you blame the government for allowing this to escalate to the point that it did where this scenario took place? It's like, it's funny where people decide to
totally
end up on that.
Yeah.
That is. Wait, I do want to say one more thing, because I just recounted what happened in my head. I hated white people too. Like I hated Filipinos and white people. Don't think I didn't hate the white people, because the white people were mean to me too.
Great.
And I didn't know what I was. So I just want to let you know that I was racist against white people and Asians simultaneously.
I feel a lot better.
I appreciate that you cleared that up. David is racist against not just Filipinos. Great.
Not anymore.
Oh yeah, because he has half a brain. So
right,
okay,
right.
All right. Well, thank you.
I have half a brain.
And we appreciate your feedback for this especially volatile topic. Happy Thanksgiving. Voting is the best way. We just got that comment. Yes, if you want to change these laws, we need to vote the right people in.
Vote. Get out and fucking vote.
I don't mean the right people. I mean the good people that are usually not on the right, but maybe once in a while. Anyway, check out.
Yeah, maybe some people shouldn't vote.
That's a thing too. But anyway, we don't want to encourage people not to vote. But
yeah, so we're wrapping up. So if you have a comment, you better you better lay it down now, because I'm about to wrap it up.
Please go to our
wrap up, Aaron,
or Instagram account to find out when we're live streaming next. We'll be in the next 2 weeks, and that's all I have.
Wait, I have one really fast question. Twitter now, because Periscope is bye-bye, so Twitter gives live option. Will we start live feeding on Twitter?
We might. We have a screaming child, so we have to wrap it up. Thank you, everyone.
All right, now if you think that we gonna bow down and run, think we be bothered you got water in your gun? Bitch, you got the wrong bitch. You think we too afraid to expose the fact that 5-0 dropping houses on hoes? Bitch, you got the wrong bitch.